Thanks, Garth. I'll start today's conversation or presentation by putting in context where Brisbane City Council is. Obviously, people know where Brisbane is. We are the largest council in the country. We were the largest in the Southern Hemisphere until recently, when Auckland pipped us at the post with their amalgamations. So when I give you some figures today, just remember that we have 1.1 million residents and about 420 to 440,000 waste services. So put that in context, I saw a presentation yesterday from Moira Shire Council with 28,000 residents. So the scale of our services is quite significant. So why did we go to an app? For many years we've had an online bin collection calendar where people could put in their address, and there would be just a two-dimensional calendar which would give them the red, yellow and green bin days. There were some issues with that. It cost $2,500 a time to update it, so as we had new subdivisions coming on board, we only did that a couple of times a year because of the cost, so it meant that it was never up to date. The calendar was limited to the website, so if people had digital devices or portable devices, it was how those devices showed a website, and it didn't meet accessibility standards for people with impairments. So we were getting a bit of pressure from our digital team to make some changes there. So we looked at some options and went to the market and came up with an app. Impact Apps were the successful tenderer. We had a couple of options open to us, and Impact Apps were the ones that got the job in the end. The app that we've got is smartphone and tablet compatible, so with iOS and Android, not Windows at the moment. Very small part of the phone market. As it turns out, it's Brisbane City Council's preferred platform, so we actually can't access the app on our own phones, but we won't go there. Found that out afterwards. So in conjunction with the calendar, we also put in a web-based widget to replace the online calendar, which meant people had a little bit more information at their fingertips, and it also didn't take away from that facility that more than 70,000 people a year had used in terms of the online calendar. We were also able to add to the app a range of features in addition to the calendar. We were able to administer our own updates, so we can do that in-house, the bulk of the work, through a content management system, and some of the work is still done by the developer. We can administer push notifications, so we can select all of our users or just users by suburb. So if we want to send out particular messages around household hazardous waste collections, for example, we can target particular suburbs. And the beauty of push notifications is that people can actually disable them if they don't want to get that information sent to them. And we also have, at the moment, which is not switched on, but a multilingual functionality. So we will be looking to translate into a number of our common languages in the near future, could be in inverted commas. Here's some screenshots of a number of the options inside the app. The first one, people type in, when they download the app, they type in their address, and it'll automatically populate that information and send them notifications the night before their collection. We also have an A to Z of recyclable items, so it tells people what to do with those items, where to put them, whether or not they're a yellow top bin, a red top bin, a green bin or a transfer station. We've got a report a problem section, which is probably not as functional at the moment as we would like it. It just diverts people to our call centre, but our aim is to have that a little bit more comprehensive as time goes on. And it also geolocates you from wherever you are to one of our transfer stations that you pick, which actually turned out to be one of the trickiest things to activate. A few more shots there of the content and just what it looks like. You can pick your transfer station. There is a number of options there about composting at home, how to order your large yellow top bin or your green waste bin, household hazardous waste collections, curbside waste collections. So anything that is to do with the waste setup in council is available on one of the tabs. So the challenges in setting up the app. these are probably not in any particular order, but dealing with a third-party developer, when we went into this, we thought we were dealing with impact apps. It turns out there was a person sitting in the background who was the actual developer, and that caused a little bit of angst in the early days, but eventually we were able to have three-way conversations with the developer and impact and us, so we could get our issues across. The off-the-shelf package that we did purchase changed considerably. That probably wasn't deliberate. We knew we wanted some changes, but as we went along, it was modified even more and more. Going into it, a common understanding of what we wanted versus what impact apps thought they were delivering, often we were at quite separate ends of the line, and often that was just language. And a good example of that was the geolocation of the mapping facility. What they were giving us was a 2D map on where the facility was. What we knew we wanted and what we thought we were getting was the geolocating. So I'm here, the transfer station's there, I go left, I go right. So that was a bit tricky, but once we got that understanding, we got where we needed to be. The biggest issue for us, the first 3 Mondays that the app was in operation, it reverted to the wrong collection day for people, the wrong fortnight. We got a lot of reviews on App Store and Google Play that it was dodgy, it didn't tell people what they needed to know, there was negative responses, and that politically was very damaging for us. And by the 3rd Monday, those guns that we had last night at the dinner probably were at all of our heads about why have we done this and why can't it be fixed. We also had a number of technologically challenged residents. When you go into the app, you only need to type the first couple of letters of your suburb and your street, and then it'll bring in drop-downs. They wanted to type in the streets. Instead of RD, they would type in ROAD when it was clearly there. Then it would say that their address didn't exist, so they'd ring us, or they'd put a negative response on social media. So there's no compensating or measuring the intellect of your community. It's probably the most discreet way I can... Sorry. But we got there. When I put this presentation, this had to be submitted a couple of weeks ago. We had 9,000 downloads. As of Monday, we were just shy of 14,000. So again, put that in perspective. 1.1 million residents, so we're about 1.7%, I think, of our population, about 3% of our services. So at the end of the day, despite some hiccups and some challenges, we've got a good product that provides good information to our residents in a really simple platform. And for council officers, it's cost effective to develop and maintain. Just a quick slide there of how the number of downloads was progressing up until that was mid-April, I think. So it's a fairly consistent climb. And what do we do to tell people it's out there? It was really a soft launch, thank God, because the first 3 Mondays. Like you, how many ways can I slash my wrists? So we did some online advertising with BMAG, which is a free magazine in Brisbane. We did some radio advertising on some of the more popular stations, mostly white-collar female audiences. Some Living in Brisbane newsletters, which is a free newsletter that goes out to our residents from council. Primarily social media was our biggest advertising. We've got a number of multicultural communities where we've done some research on which communities use digital platforms, and Indian community is one of the highest. So we did some advertising there. Internal communications to council staff. There's 8,000 council staff, so a free email to 8,000 staff reaches all their family and friends. And we've got a number of other brochures and things that go out. For example, Brisbane's Best Household Guide to Recycling. So the benefits, as I said, we have a comprehensive tool that's easy for people to access wherever they are on the go. Includes the bin collection calendar, which we always had but is now more updated and regularly updated. The cost saving to us is significant. There's about a $5,000 per annum hosting fee, which, working on $2,500 updates, which we did with the old system, roughly comes out the same, but we can actually update the system today if we need to. We don't have to wait for 6 months. We're now accessibility compliant, so our digital team is happy, they're off our backs. We can include the multilingual functionality as and when we need to. Our audience gets the information that they need when they need it, and we can put out push notifications as we need to. So the aim is to reduce call centre requests in the long run and save council even more money, but that's just a little bit hard to measure at the moment. So you're probably all sitting there thinking, yeah, so what did it cost? Actually, not as much as you think. Again, put this in perspective, 1.1 million residents. We spent $26,000 on the app, plus customisation of about another $18,000. So I don't think that's a lot of money for what we got out of it, but smaller councils may not think so. Probably the bulk, as I said, was in the additional customisations that we didn't necessarily know at the beginning what we were setting out there, and that was a bit of a living beast as we went along. The annual fee is quite low and gets us access to the reporting that we need, 24-hour service should we need it if there are technical issues. Hopefully none like we've experienced so far. And we can manage the content management system ourselves. The push notifications, we can get to about 250,000 devices when we get that far for about $200 a year. So in terms of that access, it's as cheap as chips. And that's it. Any questions?